And welcome to I don't know, I guess we could just conjoin this into Let's Talk, even though we did at some point start a series way back in the day called Anime Talk, but I just feel like that doesn't really flow together and all around, just another series for us to have to manage. So let's just throw it in Let's Talk land, because yes, today we're gonna actually, maybe not, Maybe we'll throw this into Share Your Grin because it kind of fits more in the sharing your opinions and or talking about things we enjoyed / just wanting to talk about. Yes, so let's do that. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be talking about The Six Braves. This is an anime that I just finished watching. Now to be honest, well, it's okay. It's good. It's good. It's just not, like, I don't know, really great, you know? It's like, I don't know, I found myself being like, this is different. I'm not sure if I like it, but it's different. Anyways, the whole premise of the show is the idea that you're in this fantasy world kind of back in I don't know, when there's like gladiator battles happening. Also, the world has magic and shit, so that's something to consider. So yeah, like a fantasy world. So the whole premise of the show is that fate... Okay, so there's essentially this demon king, and then there's this woman called Fate, or Fate itself, who brings forth every so-and-so, I think it's like every 10 years or 100 years or something, she picks 6 champions, basically, 6 braves, to defeat the demon lord from getting resurrected again. She does this by finding the strongest and best warriors in the world. Pretty cool concept. And then the Braves are supposed to go and fight this demon lord, or like stop him from getting resurrected. Anyways, so when I seen this show advertised, I was like, oh, okay, this is like, 6 unlikely heroes coming together to take down this big bad. Their adventures, them going to point A to point B. Boy, was I wrong. That is in no way the series. So the main character in the show is this long-haired, red-head guy who's all about, like, tricks almost, which is actually really cool because he's very much like the rogue class in any video game kind of thing. And everyone in the world has, like, what seems like an overpowered advantage. For instance, there are these people that have, like, they're like the reincarnation of a god or goddesses or something, and they get, like, an access to crazy power, like crazy magic, basically. And then there are other people that are just kind of powerful by nature of whatever, but then there's little old him, who is strong. He's basically just a strong human who has, like, nothing going for him besides the fact that he went through, like, the most brutal, hell-ridden training ever. And yeah, that's kind of his whole gimmick, and his whole gimmick is that he's like, there's never a moment in the series where he's ever depressed, even though he should be. But then again, it's almost weird because it's almost like the idea of suppressing or hiding your sorrow, so to perceive to look happy, because if you're happy, then you can take on anything almost. It goes into that in the series. Anyways, that's the main character, and then there's all these other characters that you eventually meet within an actually fast time period within the series. You meet like this girl who's like the princess, who's got like bunny ears and shit. It's kind of weird, but she's one of those reborn goddesses or whatever that has like this unstoppable power. And then you meet a bunch of these other ones, like this knight. You meet a bunch of people. Anyways, the series goes on in like 2 or 3 episodes, and you find out that they're all trying to get to this specific point. And this specific point is supposed to be like them closing the door behind them, so that they can make their way to like the demon's land, but put the door up so that no one can get past. So there's not like demons are flooding in when they're on their journeys, stuff like that, because they're basically leaving the continent to kill the Demon King rather than defend it. Anyways, point being, is that when they get to this special little enclave, this special little pyramid rune kind of tomb, they're supposed to activate this smoke shield. And when everyone arrives, they see that there are 7 braves, not 6, but 7. So then the deduction is, oh shit, so I guess there's someone here that isn't a brave, that is an imposter. And you're like, oh, okay, I don't know. And what do you call it? It's interesting because the problem is that they're stuck in this tomb, so they know they do a pretty good job about like making it very obvious about what's happening. Like basically something goes wrong with like the fog shield, and then there's far too many Braves in this location, but then they're also trapped by the fog, so it's just a kind of a mess. But basically the anime that I thought was going to take the way it sets itself up is like, hey, there are these 7 or 6 warriors, that are going to like take down this big bad enemy, right? And they're all from every walks of life. Some of them look like fancy nobles, others look like trash, whatever, because the goddess of fate only really prioritizes your ability in combat, so she could care less about whatever you are. The thing is, though, is that in this moment, the whole anime shifts from being like this, oh, we're gonna go take down the Demon King, to, oh, who, a mystery, like a Sherlock Holmes. You're stuck in a mansion with a bunch of people, and then lights go out, somebody dies, who killed the person, right? That's what it becomes. Like, guess who and all that. Anyways, I mean, I'm not trying to spoil the whole show, and I won't, but essentially the deduction is that the guy with the red hair, the main character, Fast, immediately gets pinned as this unreasonable 7th. Not only because he's kind of arrogant, and we'll talk about the show's downsides, but I just want to go through the kind of paces so that people get an idea of what's happening. Also, I just want to talk about it and just go wherever we decide to go. Yeah. But the thing that bothers me with the show quite a bit is it seems like it's trying to be jumbled, and we'll get into that. But it's almost like it's not being reasonable as a show that's like that. Like a show you should be able to be like, oh, okay, everyone's actions are unreasonable. And therefore the person that is doing this is the bad guy, right? It doesn't do that. It basically makes everyone just a fucking unhinged mess. Anyways, so everyone kind of suspects this dude for kind of stumbling over his words. He's on the run, in this kind of like mist cloud. And he never once like withers, or like, what do you call it, wavers from being like, oh no, I'm brave, I care about people, I'm kind, I'm nice, that kind of thing. And that's, should we talk about the negatives right just yet? Anyways, let's finish the story kind of recap, just to give you guys a taste of what you're going to be getting into if you do want to watch this show. So yes, he's kind of pinned as the bad guy. So he has these, what is it? Six unbelievably badass warriors coming to kill his ass. And he's stuck in this dome. But himself, he's all about, like, he's a rogue. So it's like trying to find the assassin, if you're a warrior, you know, like you're at an inherent disadvantage because that's what he does. He gets away, he's quick, he's sly, he thinks of things 3 times in advance, that kind of thing. He's also dirty. He plays like a scumbag. It's awesome. I love that part of the show, though. So from there, the main character is trying to prove his innocence and find out, more importantly, who the big bad is. And I will say that this is a show that does have an ending that is what I would determine to be satisfying, and then at the tail end of the show, it gets a little bit less satisfying. Anyway, so that's the framework that you need to know. There's also this gun chick that is a kind of like, for some reason, he takes an interest in, which is interesting, the way the romance thing works, as well as there's the princess that kind of helps him get out of jail and all these things. Anyways, you should watch the show. It's pretty interesting. Would I suggest watching it? Yes, but only with this bumper. And it's hard to explain, but I feel like these might be killjoys for a lot of people. Because if I noticed it, and I'm pretty neutral about things, I can like shake off most terrible things or like most annoying entertainment and just be like, I had a good time. Like, I like the action. I liked whatever. So I could hate a lot of things, but if I like 2 or 3 things about it, I'll probably just hang on to those 2 things and be like, I had a good time, you know? Anyways, but the big problem with this is, and I never really understood what people meant by when they talk about anime that is like, how do I say it? Not poorly written, because like the beats for beats of what's happening and like clues that they leave for you are pretty okay, but it's the way the characters speak that is the most unhuman thing I've ever seen. Now that's maybe because the main character has like, he's basically a scarred human being that falls back on these words: I am the strongest man in the world. And you'll be hearing that a lot in this show, to a degree in which, and again, it may make sense because you find out that he was basically just an ordinary human with no benefits in the slightest, but he was trained by this like ruthless old man that made him strong. But in doing so, he's malnourished and like beaten and broken and just all this terrible shit. So maybe that's like a scar in his mind, maybe. But even still, as of like an entertainment perspective, it's terrible. It's really annoying. So the main character in itself is not hateable, but he's frustrating at the best. Like, it's just like, dude, why do you got to keep saying this line? Like, it feels like the dialogue is poorly written. And I never noticed that ever in shows. And with this one show, he just kept hammering that stupid saying, "I'm the strongest man on earth." That's it. And it just became really like, ugh, I get it. Also, nobody talks like this. Like, you fucking weird person. Also, I don't know, it's hard to say things because you can't spoil it, but because you do find out who the 7th Brave is and all these things. And it does it in a decent way. Let's not talk about that just yet. Yeah, I just found the main character to be, if he just had a better way of translating and saying who he is and articulating how he feels, then I think it would be significantly better. And it's weird because there's a lot of characters that are pretty terrible. So I don't think it's just like, oh, he's a scarred human being and that's why he's like this. I think it's simply that like the writing for dialogue is just either there's a huge translation error, maybe the case, maybe like going from Japanese to English, because I watched the dub, because of course I did. Who has time to watch sub? Anyways, yeah, I found myself being like, oh, the dialogue is hella weird, but it's like that for almost everyone. So I don't think it's like just for him and him having like this scarred mental scar and things like that. Anyways, so yeah, that's one big bumper that I would leave is the main character is at best hard to relate to, understand, and care about. And well, I know you care about him. He's a good person is the thing that's nice. He's virtuous. He's very like, even though he is like this rogue assassin that will do anything to really win, he is still very, very kind. And he probably is the kindest out of all of them. Like, out of all the Braves, he's probably the nicest and best. Well, I'm not sure about best. Best in terms of like skill, but not in strength. There's some that are just godly. Because again, fate only cares about strength, but he in itself has, I think he has a strength that is like the group. Like, he's going to be the head of the group, which is weird, like the weakest link being the head, but it's also because he's the thing that pulls them all together and can like make sense of things, because he's also incredibly intelligent. Because there's this moment in the series which is actually pretty dope, but there's this little girl character that's like a swamp monster, that can basically summon overpowered like monsters endlessly, and no one's ever beaten her in combat. So, but him, and with the help of another individual, he beats her, which is just kind of like a good thing to be like, oh no, this dude is strong, but he's stronger in the sense of like being the person that moves the chess pieces in every direction, rather than the person that's the chess piece itself, the strength itself, the kind of the mind behind the force. Anyway, so that's kind of the basis for the show. Is again, it's like this. You think it'd be something else, but no, it's like a mystery show. So you're trying to find out who's the bad guy, and the second part is this broken, lowly human being blamed for everything, but still being kind of upbeat and cheery, which is a nice trait in an anime. Most animes go the route, especially nowadays, of edgelord, a person that just hates the world and society and all these things. But in the show, it's very cool that he doesn't dwell on that. In fact, he's always optimistic, which is nice. Again, I'm tired of seeing all these protagonists that are just fucking hate everything. And it's like, come on, please, just be a human for a little bit and realize that there's always some fabrication of hope. Like, or else why the fuck are you doing anything? Anyways, the one thing that I found though, that the other big gripe that I have, and I mentioned it in passing, but it's the main character, not the main character, it's everyone else around him. The show angles itself as like this mystery, like who did the big bad, who is the person, who is the wolf among us kind of idea. But it does a really bad job about, it's like everybody's a wolf, and it's like there's moments that are just unreasonable. And you're just like, what is going on? And the fact that the ending happens, and the ending is really cool because you find out what's happening, right? But it doesn't do that many like precursor things to where it's like, oh, you as a deductive human being that's trying to find out who the big bad guy is could have found that out at some point. Maybe you picked up on certain things, yeah. But you don't at all. And it's really annoying, or at least I don't think you do, because there's like two things that they could point to that actually matter. It's one of those things where it's just like, oh, I think it's this person, and then by like episode 10 you're certain it's this one person, and then for some reason it's not. And you're like, what the hell is going on? Yeah, so that's my final rendition of it. Before we get into spoilers, I do want to talk about some spoiler things. So if you haven't watched the show, maybe go watch it. It's not necessary to watch. It's not like something that I'd be like, you have to watch it. It's so important. It's so great. It's just kind of something that's good. Yeah, I'm not even sure if I'd say good. I'd say it's about 70. It's a 70%. It's a 70% anime kind of thing for me. I really love it. I would like to watch season 2, but it wasn't like, God, the best thing. Like, I was just breathing with excitement when I finished it. It wasn't that kind of thing. Anyways, on to spoilers. Okay, so you find out at the end, and it's such a weird moment, but it's also clever. Like, it's done poorly, but the idea is really cool, and it's not done poorly. It's like this weird back and forth. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, okay, I guess that's kind of clever. That's kind of stupid. That's kind of clever though. But yeah, so throughout the series, the princess, the person, you kind of, they establish her as being this kind of like wild card because she is this like tempest or like next generation goddess or whatever. But that's just a cover basically, and also she has moments where she says things like, and the reason why I'm like, I don't think it's that bad is because, or like the you finding out that it's her, is because they do harken back to it to a certain extent. For instance, they say, she says things like, oh man, you just all like dudes or hero men want to be the hero for this fragile thing, and that's exactly the way she angled herself in. And I don't know, I the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I guess it's kind of clever. The thing is that her being the big bad is actually pretty clever and pretty interesting, and just an all-around something that you probably suspected but probably dropped. And the reason why you dropped suspecting her is the thing that frustrates me, is the thing that I think that was weak, and that is that there's this like, I think she's like a purple-haired person, but she's like this chick of the mountains, basically this giant mountain person. She's not giant, she's just, that's her like magic or something, I don't know. Anyways, point being is that they push so hard on her being the big bad, and it's so painfully frustrating because it's like, what? Like, you're the most unreasonable human being ever. But with that being said, they do end the season, and I don't think there will be a season 2 for what it's worth. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of good odds for that. But they angle it with like, because after they find out she's bad, she runs off. But then when the mist finally fades, there's this other girl that comes in, and she's like, I'm a brave too. And it's like, oh, well shit, so now we're back at square one. Someone is lying. One of the people here is lying. And you know, some people could be like, oh, but that's her. That's the one goddess chick. I don't think it is. From what I gather, it just doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like they're trying to mislead you. I honestly think, if I were to guess, and the manga's out, so the information is there, I just don't want to look into it. But tell me if you know, if you're a fan of the series. I feel like it's the main character, because the main character got vindicated, but I also think, or I also remember when the main character attained his brave seal, it was like baked in fire and like demon shit, so I don't feel like that was legit, like a legit brave symbol. It felt like it was some sort of weird, and also the princess was near him or like with him when that happened, so I feel like she may have like lied to him as well, or like made him believe that he was one too, even though he's not. Who knows? Regardless, that's my thought. I think the he is technically not a brave or whatever, or I don't know. I honestly don't know. The show is kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's not a bad watch. Like, I don't regret watching it. It's just one of those things where, again, it's like the weird contrast of, I think the princess being the big bad and how they misdirected you is cool, and I like the fact that she was the evil person, because you can think back to moments that happened in the series and you're like, oh, of course, why did I let that go just because I thought that was a rule that goddesses were just crazy, you know, or just temperamental or insane or something. That was a fact that I should have kept in mind. But then there's the other thing where it's like everyone seems like they're somehow kind of bad. Like no character is like 100% vindicated. And if it is, it's the goddamn cat guy who looks like the most sketchy person ever. But I don't know, guys. I just thought I'd talk about this because I thought it was fun. The whole idea of like, again, I could have never expected going into this show that it would be this like weird guess who is the murderer kind of thing. And again, if there was ever a season 2, I'd like to watch it. So it wasn't like I hated my time. I was just, there's moments where I was just like, eh. But I still enjoyed it. I hope maybe you guys would too. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Let me know what you guys think about the show if you guys have watched it. Subscribe button to my right and 2 videos to my further right. Thank you and goodbye.